This is part 4 of the tutor interview questions. Question 11. Have you ever worked for any tutoring companies? If so, please describe your training and experience while working there. What did you learn about tutoring while working there? What did you like or dislike about working at tutoring companies? So, like I mentioned earlier, I worked for Alternatives Unlimited, and I was referred to that company by a friend that lives out in Los Angeles. And the tutoring company was expanding out in the Riverside County. At the time that I contacted my friend, it was roughly November of 2012. And when they heard that I was interested in tutoring, it almost felt like they were essentially filling a hole or filling a number that they were missing. And so I started tutoring essentially the next week. I did all the background checks and submitted my paperwork, and in a week later I was at a meeting, and at the meeting we were given access to an online sign-in page where we would find every single thing possible for that company. Everything from flyers, everything from lesson plans, assessments, but there was no formal training. It was more of a sign in and get what you need for tutoring and good luck. Like I mentioned earlier, it wasn't such a big problem for me since I already had experience, but I just felt bad for the tutors who had no experience, had no clue what they were doing. And to make it worse, I felt bad for the students who had those tutors that didn't have any type of formal training. I learned that not all tutoring companies are efficient, and not all tutors are efficient. But without proper protocol, it's hard to measure what tutors and what program is essentially working. Question 12. Why do you think more students don't take advantage of free after-school tutoring at the elementary school, middle school, or high school? I believe that the students that are offered free after-school tutoring take advantage of it. It's very few that don't. But the students that do take advantage, they're normally students that are they're way below their grade level. And I believe, like I mentioned earlier, if tutoring was offered evenly to the entire grade level, you would have higher amounts of participation and possibly more students wanting to return and get this after school tutoring. Now, I know of parents that have students that are proficient and they have gone to sign up for these tutoring programs, and the schools tell them that there no longer is any more funding, or that they only could allow a certain number of students. And most of the tutoring is for kindergarten through 4th grade. We didn't have really any high school students. I had one middle school student, but her grade level was essentially a 4th grade level student. So if basically the floor opens up, we would have maybe possibly more students enrolled in these programs. Question 13. What general training, if any, do you feel would be beneficial before becoming a tutor for any subject or grade level? Training definitely is needed in these tutoring programs and companies like Alternatives Unlimited. And I believe that the best way would possibly be to hire a trainer. The company that I worked for, they had something called the district coordinator, and it basically seemed more like a clerical job where they would place students and they would find schools, but there was nobody actually there to train. So that would be better if we had if the private companies had a trainer who would teach the tutors different strategies that would help the tutors have better lessons for the students. Question 14. Why do you think many students don't seek out tutoring assistance sooner? What do you think can be done to improve student motivation in learning mathematics in particular, or any subjects they struggle with? I know for the older students, middle school and high school, they're not interested in tutoring. The tutoring most of the time is done because a parent is requesting it or asking for it. But I believe that if the tutoring was somewhat fun or somewhat entertaining, more students would sign up. As far as elementary school, the students are pretty much very eager to learn, and I can just tell you a quick instance that my students would always have a paper flower for me or some type of little gift for when I showed up. Or sometimes they would be outside their gate just ready, waiting for me to arrive. So they're pretty much very eager. The older students, there could possibly be a reward system, but it's just a lot harder to get older students to want to seek tutoring. Question 15. What do you think a student can do on their part to get the most out of their tutoring session? The student can basically just be ready to learn, be well rested, and also have a tutoring schedule that won't impact something fun that the student is already doing. So, for example, if a student has soccer practice on Tuesdays, you wouldn't want to schedule your tutoring sessions for Tuesday because you also want the student to enjoy their childhood. So, I think the best way is to be flexible as a tutor and choose a schedule that works best for the student. Not too late and not right after school either. Something that works for both the student and the parent. Question 16. What do you think about cross-age tutoring, peer tutoring, computer-based tutoring programs, teacher-student one-to-one tutoring, and one-to-one tutoring with a student and a volunteer tutor? Do you think they are effective and beneficial for all students involved? Which one do you think is the most beneficial and why? So, all types of tutoring is helpful as long as the tutors are trained properly. And which one do I think is most beneficial? The most beneficial tutoring is teacher-student tutoring, but teachers have so much to do after school. It's almost nearly impossible with all the paperwork that now has to be done. Grades have to be reported. Lesson plans for the next day have to be recorded, and meetings. It's nearly impossible. That's the most beneficial. And if teachers were getting paid, possibly some type of stipend that might help increase the amount of teachers that are willing to be tutors. But other than that, it's very difficult. And another great one is the cross-age tutoring. I did have times where I tutored a brother and sister, and one was in 3rd grade and one was in 7th grade, and it worked out perfectly well. That's beneficial just because the young student wants to basically keep up with the older student, and the older student wants to show their best work and show their competence to their younger sibling, or maybe the other student if they're not related.